There is nowhere you need to be right now. There is nothing you need to do, nothing you need to remember, nothing waiting for your attention on the other side of this moment. Whatever the day held, the weight of it, the texture of it, the small frictions and larger worries, you can set all of that down now. The way you might set down a bag you've been carrying for so long, you stopped noticing it was there. Feel the surface beneath you. Feel the way it holds you, completely and without effort on your part. You are supported. You are safe. You are already, in this moment, beginning to rest. Let your eyes close, if they haven't already. Let your breathing slow, not because you're trying to slow it, but simply because you're noticing it, and noticing is enough. In, slowly, and out, slowly. Again, in, out. There's no pace you need to match, and no rhythm you need to maintain. Just the natural tide of your own breath, moving through you the way water moves, without urgency, without destination. Tonight, you are going somewhere very still, somewhere quiet, in a way that most places never quite manage to be. You're going down, not in any way that frightens, but the way a boat settles gently onto calm water, the way a hand rests on a warm surface, easily, without resistance. You're going to a place where the only light is soft and living, where the air carries the smell of green things and cool stone, where nothing rushes and nothing startles. A place where someone tends, quietly, to small and beautiful things, and where you are welcome to simply be present and watch and let yourself drift. Take one more slow breath and come with me. You are already here. The first thing you notice is the sound, or rather, almost the absence of sound, because there is something, a low frequency hum that you feel more than hear, a hum that is present in the walls and in the floor, and in the subtle pressure of the air itself, the faint, continuous song of the pressure seals, working, holding, holding, holding. It is the sound the habitat makes to keep itself whole, 1,100 meters below the surface of the sea. And once you understand what it is, it stops being remarkable. It becomes the background of everything. It becomes something like silence. The corridor is long. It stretches ahead of you in a gentle curve, curving so gradually you almost don't perceive the curve at all. And the walls are pale. Pale metal. Pale composite panels fitted together with measured care. And along each side of the corridor, at regular intervals, there are doorways, rounded doorways with thick glass panels set into their frames. And through each glass panel, light. Not bright light, nothing as sharp as that. This is amber light, warm and low, the color of old honey, or the last moment of a fire settling into coals, and it pulses, very slowly. Not a flicker, nothing as sudden as a flicker, more like breathing. The amber light swells, very gently, and holds, and then recedes just slightly, and then swells again. 4 seconds in, 4 seconds out. It has been doing this for as long as the nursery has existed, and it will continue for a long time after. The floor beneath your feet is slightly textured, designed to prevent slipping, you understand, in a place where condensation finds every surface, and it is cool through your soles, pleasantly cool, the way a stone floor is cool on a warm morning. You stand still for a moment and simply let the cool travel up through you. It is grounding. It says, here. You are here. The air is damp. Not uncomfortably so. Not the heavy, pressing damp of a summer afternoon, but a clean, mineral damp. The kind of air that comes off cold stone and cool water, carrying with it the faint green scent of living things. There's wet earth in it somewhere, or something very like wet earth, the smell that rises when rain meets old ground. And beneath that, something softer, something you can't quite name. The breath of the fungi themselves, perhaps. The exhalation of 10,000 small patient organisms going about their work in the dark. You breathe it in, and it is good. Unexpectedly, simply good. To your left, the first of the glass panels glows its amber pulse. You lean slightly toward it and look through. Inside, a chamber, perhaps 4 meters wide and twice as long, lined from floor to ceiling with shallow cultivation trays stacked in racks. Each tray holds a growing medium, dark substrate, you understand, a mixture of mineral silicate and organic compounds. And from each tray, in various stages of emergence, grow the fungi. Small caps, pale as cream, edged with the faintest blue-green luminescence. Branching threads of mycelium tracing through the substrate like the veins of something sleeping. Clusters of shelf-fungi, tiered and precise, jutting from chunks of basalt like small shelves in a library. And over all of it, the amber pulse, swelling, settling, swelling, settling. You can see the condensation on the inside of the glass panel. Tiny droplets gathered at the top, running in slow, single trails down the surface, each one catching the amber light for a moment before falling away. You watch one particular drop. It gathers, it rounds, it holds, and then, slowly, it begins its journey down the glass, leaving a thin, clear trail behind it, and it moves the way everything moves here. Without urgency, without any destination, it needs to reach before it's ready. At the far end of the corridor, you can see a shape moving. Unhurried, deliberate. Someone in a worn canvas apron, the kind that has been washed and dried so many times, the fabric has softened into something almost tender, moving from one doorway to the next, pausing, looking, moving on. This is the Sporewright, not a title anyone assigned formally, just what the work became over time, the way all real work becomes inseparable from the person who does it. The Sporewright moves the way the amber light moves, steadily, without sharp edges. They carry a small glass stylus and a logbook with a dark cover that has been handled so often the corners have rounded to nothing, and they do not hurry. You begin to walk in that direction. There is no urgency in your step either. You pass the first doorway and the second, and as you move through the corridor, the amber pulse washes over you again and again, each wash of warm gold slightly different from the last. A little brighter here, a little softer there, and the hum of the pressure seals surrounds you like something familiar, something that has always been present at the edge of your hearing, something you are only now letting yourself actually hear. The Sporewright is at Chamber 3 when you come close enough to see them clearly. They have the tray out, a cultivation tray, lifted free of its rack and held at eye level with both hands, the way someone might hold a letter up to a window to read the watermark. The tray glows. The mycelium network spread across its surface shines blue-green, not the aggressive blue-green of something synthetic, but the deep, honest luminescence of something alive. And the Sporewright tilts it, very slowly, watching the light shift as the angle changes, watching the network reveal itself differently in each new slant of glow. They do not speak. They do not need to. The looking is the task. After a long moment, They lower the tray, gently, with both hands, the way you'd lower a sleeping thing, back into its slot in the rack, and they make a small note in the logbook with the glass stylus. The stylus makes the faintest scratching sound against the page. Not an unpleasant sound, a precise, minimal sound, the sound of one small fact being recorded, of the world being noted. You stand beside them, and they are aware of you, and that is enough. They do not break their routine for your presence, which is exactly as it should be. You are here to observe, and they are here to tend, and both things can be true at once in a place this quiet. Chamber 3 is given over to shelf-fungi. The basalt slabs in this chamber are larger than in the first, dark and irregular. The kind of rock that was once liquid and cooled into this specific arrangement of angles and planes. And along each edge, along every ledge and protrusion that the basalt offers, the shelf fungi have established themselves. They are pale, almost white in the amber light, though you suspect that in the blue-violet rest cycle, they take on an entirely different quality. They tear upward along the rock face in overlapping layers, each individual shelf rounded at the edge, slightly velvety in appearance. You have the sense that if you were to reach in and run a finger along one of those edges, which you would not here, not uninvited, it would feel like the edge of a very fine sponge, soft, giving, alive in a way that is quiet rather than startling. The humidity gauge on the wall of Chamber 3 reads in a range that means nothing to you numerically, but that you understand visually, because the metal casing of the gauge is sweating. Actual drops of condensation gathered on its face, on its casing, on the clear cover over the dial, and one of those drops hangs at the very bottom edge of the casing, perfectly formed, a small, clear sphere catching the amber light. It hangs, it holds, and very slowly, like everything here, it falls. The Sporewright notes the humidity reading in their logbook, scratches the small fact into the page, turns to the misting nozzle mounted near the chamber doorway, a fine mist nozzle, copper-tipped and slightly green with age at the collar, and depresses it. A breath of vapor releases, a whisper of mist that disperses almost immediately into the air, settling over the basalt and the fungi in a layer so thin it's barely visible, just a slight brightening of surfaces, a slight deepening of the ambient glow as the moisture touches the mycelium, and the mycelium responds, responding in its patient way, the way all living things respond to what they need, quietly, thoroughly, without drama. You walk a little further down the corridor. Chamber 4 is closed, sealed with a secondary latch. The indicator light above its door, a soft, steady green that means everything inside is well and undisturbed. You pause beside it anyway, and through the thick glass, you can see, in the far interior of the chamber, a single large cultivation mat laid across the entire floor surface. A mycelium mat, dense, felted, a deep, warm brown in the amber light, and across its surface, at intervals, small fruiting bodies have pushed through. Not many, just a few. The mat is mostly undivided growth, the spreading horizontal network that is the body of the organism, the part that most people never see. The fruiting bodies above ground are just the smallest expression of something much larger working below. You watch the mat for a while. There is nothing to watch, technically. Nothing is moving. Nothing will move while you stand here. But you watch anyway, because there's something about the density of that growth, the completeness of it, that is restful in the way that certain landscapes are restful. A field, a lake at evening, a hillside with old trees, not because they are dramatic, but because they have been there a long time and will continue to be there and do not require anything from you. The Sporewright has moved ahead to Chamber 5. You follow, unhurried. Your footsteps on the textured floor are soft, a faint, padded sound, barely louder than the hum of the pressure seals, and the corridor absorbs them easily, the way the corridor absorbs everything, with a kind of gentle, undemonstrative patience. Chamber 5 is where the Threadmold lives. You understand this even before you see it, because the scent is different here. The same cool stone and green earth of the corridor, but with something added to it, something slightly deeper. A mineral note, almost metallic, the way certain mosses smell after rain. You step close to the glass and look in, and there it is, Violet Threadmold, Sporewright's specialty within specialties, spreading slowly along the length of a long, low basalt slab positioned diagonally across the chamber floor. It is the most extraordinary color, not purple, not exactly, but a deep red violet that shifts toward blue at the edges of each filament, the individual threads so fine as to be nearly invisible individually, but collectively forming a network that looks almost like embroidery, like very old, very fine embroidery, worked in thread, the color of amethyst and shadow. The amber light does something interesting to the Violet Threadmold. In each amber pulse, the mold glows, not the blue-green of the other fungi, but its own color, its own particular luminescence, which is more like a deep ember glow, a color that suggests warmth from the inside. And when the pulse recedes, the glow remains for a moment, hanging in the air like the last trace of something, before it too settles back to the baseline. The Sporewright opens the door to Chamber 5 and steps in. You remain at the threshold, watching. The air from inside reaches you, cooler than the corridor, and carrying that mineral moss scent more strongly now. And beneath it, yes, a faint warmth. Not the warmth of a heated room, but the warmth of metabolic activity, the barely perceptible heat that living things generate in their work. The mycelium mat is warm. You understand this the way you understand certain things in this place, not through explanation, but through presence. The Sporewright crouches beside the basalt slab. They set the logbook on the floor beside them, carefully, and they lean close to the Threadmold, close enough that their breath would reach it if they breathed carelessly, which they do not. They breathe very carefully here. They look at the leading edge of the Threadmold's advance along the slab, which has moved. The logbook would tell you precisely how much, in millimeters, since the last check, but you can see it has moved the way the hour hand of a clock moves, not observably in real time, only measurably in retrospect. The Threadmold does not rush. It has never rushed. It has always moved at exactly the speed that Threadmold moves, which is the only speed there is. The Sporewright makes a note. The glass stylus scratches the page. And then they do something you hadn't expected. They pause, and they simply look at the mold for a long moment without writing, without measuring, just looking. Their head tilts slightly. The amber pulse washes the chamber in gold. The Threadmold glows its deep interior ember. And the Sporewright is still. There's pleasure in this, you understand. Not the kind of pleasure that announces itself, the kind that is indistinguishable from calm. Back in the corridor, the hum of the pressure seals rises slightly. A fluctuation, a very minor fluctuation, the kind the habitat makes periodically in response to the water pressure outside shifting in some infinitesimal way. The hum rises, plateaus for a few seconds, and then settles again to its baseline. You barely noticed it. That is the point. The habitat speaks to itself in this way all the time. Small adjustments, tiny calibrations, the continuous conversation between the structure and the sea it holds back. And it is a conversation that requires nothing from you. You are only ever a guest inside it. Chambers 6 and 7 occupy a wider section of the corridor, where the habitat bulges slightly outward in a gentle curve. A deliberate architectural choice, you gather, to create a larger shared space. Here, the cultivation racks are arranged in concentric arcs rather than straight lines, and the variety is greater. Small puffball fungi nestled in beds of dark substrate, their surfaces white and slightly shaggy. Long, thin mycelium columns reaching upward in pale gray spirals from cylindrical grow tubes. A species of cup fungus, small and orange-tinted in the amber light, scattered across a flat slab of composite material like a collection of tiny, upturned bells. The effect of so many different species together, each glowing in its own register of bioluminescence, is soft and layered, not chaotic, not complicated, just rich, full, the way an old forest is full, with the accumulated presence of many things living at their own pace. You stand in the space between chambers 6 and 7 for a long time. The amber pulse moves through the space, and the cumulative glow of all those organisms brightens and softens in response. And you breathe in the scent of wet stone and green earth, and the faint warmth of metabolism, and the pressure seal hum wraps around you, and you feel very still, very present, in your feet, in your hands, in the slow movement of air through your lungs. The Sporewright passes through this space with a kind of reverence that isn't solemn. It is lighter than that, easier. They pause at the cup fungi and crouch beside them, not touching, just looking, their head close to the tray. And for a moment, the blue-green luminescence of the cup fungi reflects faintly in the round lenses of their observation glasses. Small circular reflections of living light in glass. They breathe. They look. They write one number in the logbook. And they move on. Chamber 8 is different. Smaller than the others, set slightly deeper in the habitat wall, with a narrower doorway and a thicker glass panel. And the light inside is different too. The amber pulse reaches in here, as it does everywhere. But the dominant light source in Chamber 8 is the organisms themselves. A single large bracket fungus, mounted on a section of reclaimed timber. Old timber, gray and smooth and salt-seasoned. The kind that has spent a long time in or near water. And from this bracket fungus, from its entire underside, emanates a steady, deep blue glow. Not pulsing, not variable. Steady, like a lamp, like the oldest light in the room. It is extraordinary. Not loud, not demanding. Nothing in this place is demanding, but extraordinary in the way that the most real things are extraordinary, simply by being exactly and completely what they are. The Sporewright pauses outside Chamber 8 for a long moment. They do not go in. They look through the glass, and and the blue light reflects in the glass between them and the fungus. And they are still, and the stillness extends into the corridor, into the hum, into the air. You stand beside them and look at the blue bracket fungus and feel the stillness pass through you, the way the cool of the floor passed through your feet when you first arrived, traveling up, becoming part of you, becoming indistinguishable from your own quiet. After a while, and time in this place is elastic, you don't know if it's been minutes or longer, and it doesn't matter. The Sporewright moves on. Chamber 9, Chamber 10. These are maintenance chambers, in a way. Chambers where the substrate is being refreshed, where old material has been cleared and new material laid, where the growth is younger and sparser, and the blue-green luminescence is dimmer, more tentative. New threads, new networks beginning their slow, patient extension through the medium. The Sporewright checks each tray with the same care they gave to the most established chambers. More care, perhaps. The beginnings of things require attention differently than the middles and the ends. The misting nozzle in Chamber 9 releases its breath of vapor. The whisper of it, that fine, soft hiss, barely more than a sigh, travels through the open doorway and reaches you in the corridor, carrying a fresh pulse of the whetstone scent. And you breathe it in, and it moves through you cleanly, the way a breath should. Chamber 10 has a porthole. Most of the chambers do not. The glass panels in the doors are for observation inward, into the growing spaces. But Chamber 10 was built against the outer hull of the habitat. And in the outer hull, someone in the original construction thought to install a porthole. A small porthole, circular, perhaps 30 centimeters across, with glass at least 4 centimeters thick. You can tell by looking at the edge of it, the way the depth of the glass distorts the view ever so slightly at the periphery, creating a lens effect, a rim of prismatic subtlety around whatever lies beyond. And what lies beyond is black. A black so complete it is without quality. No gradation, no texture, no variation. Just the sea. 1,100 meters of it, pressing against this small circle of glass with perfect, patient indifference. There are no creatures visible, no currents you can see, no light reaching from the surface, not even the faintest remnant of anything solar. Just the black. You stand at the porthole for a while. The black does not frighten you. It is too absolute for that, too complete. It is simply the context in which all of this exists. The nursery, and the fungi, and the amber pulse, and the Sporewright with their logbook and their glass stylus. All of it held inside this slim corridor of light and warmth and living things, surrounded on all sides by the cold, quiet dark of the deep ocean. Not threatening, just present, just true. The hum of the pressure seals rises slightly and settles. The depth gauge needle on the wall beside the porthole ticks. A muffled tick, the faintest mechanical punctuation, as the needle registers some measurement and adjusts. And a single drop of condensation travels slowly down the outer rim of the porthole glass and falls. The Sporewright has finished their notes for Chamber 10. They move into the corridor and pause for a moment, turning to look back at the porthole, at the black beyond it, with a quiet, settled expression. They have looked through this porthole many times, you understand, many cycles, and each time the black is the same, and each time, somehow, it is reassuring. The world outside does not change. The world inside is tended. The work continues. they turn toward Chamber 11. Chamber 11 is where the spore clouds live. It is the only chamber in the nursery with a hazard indicator beside its door. Not a red indicator, nothing alarming, just a small yellow symbol that means fine particulate present. Avoid contact if unnecessary. The Sporewright stands at the door and takes a slow breath and opens it, just slightly, just far enough to observe, and the air that comes through carries with it a visible mist. Not fog, not vapor, spores. The chamber is full of them, the fine reproductive matter of a dozen species cycling through their natural dispersal phase simultaneously. The amber light catches them, and the chamber looks like the inside of something remembered, something from a quiet dream. The spores drift. They do not rush. They settle and rise and settle again, following currents of air so slight as to be imperceptible, except that the spores track them, the way smoke tracks a breath. The blue-green luminescence in Chamber 11 is diffused through the spore cloud into something more general, a glow rather than a source, a light that seems to come from the air itself, from the living matter suspended in it. You breathe very gently here, not because it's dangerous, it isn't, but because the chamber calls for gentleness the way some spaces do. You breathe gently, and the spores drift, and the amber pulse moves through the haze, and the world inside Chamber 11 is like the moment between sleep and waking, like the inside of a closed eye in a bright room, diffuse, soft, without edges. The Sporewright does not enter. They observe through the partially open door. They note in the logbook the density of the cloud, measured in some way you don't fully see, and they note the temperature, visible on a sensor mounted just inside the door, and they pull the door back to its seal with a careful, slow pressure of someone who understands that the door itself is part of the system. No sudden movements, no rush. The door closes with a soft, felt thud, and the latch engages, and Chamber 11 is sealed again with its haze and its glow and its drifting spores. You continue down the corridor. The curve of it is more perceptible now. The end of the nursery is within sight, and the curve brings you around toward it gently, the way a river bend brings you around to a new angle of the same valley. The amber pulse washes the entire length of the corridor ahead of you, and in the pulse, you can see, at the very end, a doorway that is wider than the others, heavier. The glass panel in this door is larger, almost the full width of the door, and through it, the light is different. Less amber, more blue. Not the blue of the bracket fungus in Chamber 8, but something older, something slower, something that has been generating its own light for a very long time, and has settled into a steady, almost geological patience. This is Chamber 12. You and the Sporewright arrive at it at the same moment. Not because you planned it that way. It simply happened, the way things in this place happen, without planning or contrivance, just the natural convergence of two unhurried trajectories. The Sporewright stands before the door of Chamber 12 and is still. They do not immediately look at their logbook, or reach for the door handle, or raise the glass stylus. They simply stand and look through the glass panel and breathe. And you look with them. The specimen inside Chamber 12 is very large. That is the first impression. Large in the way that ancient trees are large, not because they are taller than you expect, but because you can sense the time that has accumulated in them. It It occupies nearly the entire floor of the chamber, which is larger than the others, perhaps 8 meters across, roughly circular, and it has spread itself across the substrate in every direction from a central mass that is, you estimate, about 1.5 meters in height, a great domed central body, dense and dark at its core, but suffused at its surface with a living blue glow. And from that central body, mycelium arms extending outward across the floor, branching and rebranching, touching the walls at multiple points, climbing slightly at one corner toward the cultivation rack, where someone long ago provided it with additional substrate, which it accepted and incorporated and grew through and made part of itself. The blue light it produces is extraordinary in its steadiness. While every other species in the nursery pulses and shifts and responds to the amber grow lights, the specimen in chamber 12 simply glows continuously. The amber pulse washes over it, and the amber adds itself to the blue, and for 4 seconds, the chamber holds a color that has no name, a warm blue gold, before the amber recedes, and the true color reasserts itself, deep, steady, living blue, like a piece of sky compressed and concentrated and made solid, like the memory of a clear evening. The Sporewright makes one small note, just a measurement, temperature perhaps, or the ambient light output. Read from a small sensor mounted near the door. 1 number. They do not go inside. They haven't gone inside in many cycles, you gather. The specimen asks for stillness, and the Sporewright provides it. The door to chamber 12 has not been opened in a long time. The seal around its frame is undisturbed. The specimen does not need anything that can be brought through a door. It needs only the continuation of what it already has: the substrate, the humidity, the temperature, the silence, and the time. You stand at the glass for a long time. You watch the blue glow breathe. Not actually breath, nothing so quick as breath, but a very slow variation in intensity that you become aware of only after watching for a while, a variation on the scale of minutes rather than seconds. The glow deepens fractionally, holds, eases fractionally, like the tide, like something dreaming. From somewhere in the chamber, you can't see the source. A single drop of condensation falls from the ceiling and lands on the surface of the mycelium mat, and the mat registers it. A tiny ripple of slightly brighter glow spreading outward from the point of contact, propagating through the network for a moment before fading, the way a ripple spreads across still water and fades at the shore. The specimen noted the drop of water and returned to its stillness. The Sporewright exhales, a long, slow exhalation, the kind that follows the completion of something, or the settling into something, or simply the recognition that all is well. They look down at their logbook. The pages from this cycle are nearly full. Small, neat entries, numbers, and brief observations. The record of a complete pass through every chamber. And they turn to the final page and look at it for a moment, nearly blank. Space remaining for the final notes, for whatever the Sporewright chooses to record at the end of the cycle. They turn, and you walk with them, back along the corridor, past the wide portal of chamber 11, past the porthole of chamber 10, and its view of the absolute black, past the beginnings of growth in chambers 9 and 8, past the extraordinary stillness of the blue bracket fungus, past the richness of chambers 6 and 7, through the cool mineral air that carries the scent of wet stone and green earth, and the faint warmth of the threadmold in Chamber 5. And all along the way, the amber pulse moves with you, washing the corridor in its slow gold. 4 seconds in, 4 seconds out, and the hum of the pressure seals accompanies everything, low and continuous and steady as your heartbeat. Near the entrance of the corridor, near where you began, there's a small alcove set into the wall. It was likely a utility space once, in the mineral survey days, and it has been repurposed the way all practical things in the habitat have been repurposed, without fuss, simply by inhabiting it differently. A low seat is built into one wall, padded with material the color of dark moss, worn smooth at the center, where someone has sat many, many times. Beside the seat, a small surface, almost a shelf, almost a table, where there is a low cup and a small lamp, and nothing else. The lamp is the same amber as the grow lights, but smaller and warmer, and it doesn't pulse. It simply holds its light, constant and mild, the way a candle holds its light in a sheltered room. The Sporewright settles into this seat, not quickly, not with any drama of tiredness, just a gradual arrangement of limbs, a slow lowering, a settle. The canvas apron rustles faintly against the seat cushion. They set the logbook on their knee, open to that final, nearly blank page. You settle too. There is enough space in the alcove, or rather, there is no question of space. You simply settle, and the seat accommodates you, and the amber lamp holds its light, and the hum of the pressure seals is very steady. The Sporewright picks up the small cup. Something warm inside it. You can see the faint rise of vapor from its surface, catching the lamplight in a thin wisp. They hold it in both hands. They don't drink it yet. They just hold it, the warmth traveling through the cup into their palms. And they sit with their eyes resting somewhere in the middle distance, somewhere in the corridor, somewhere in the amber pulse, moving slowly through all those growing things. After a while, they drink. A slow sip. The sound of it barely audible. The gentlest possible sound. The sound of warmth being received. And then they set the cup down, and they pick up the glass stylus, and they open the logbook to the final page, and they write. You cannot read what they write from this angle, but you can watch the motion of the glass stylus, the small, deliberate movements of it across the page, each stroke slow and measured, nothing hurried, nothing imprecise. The scratching of the stylus is the quietest sound in the alcove, the quietest sound in the corridor, quieter than the hum of the pressure seals, quieter than the muffled tick of the depth gauge needle somewhere in the distance, quieter than the breath of the fine mist nozzle that will release again soon in some chamber. Just the stylus and the page and the Sporewright recording what needs to be recorded. They write for a short time, not long. The final notes of a completed cycle do not require many words. The cycle is already in the preceding pages, in all those small numbers and observations. What remains is something smaller, something like a summary, or something like a signature, or something that doesn't have a word for what it is, but that is important anyway. The acknowledgement in ink that the time happened and the work was done and the things being tended are well. The stylus stills. The Sporewright reads what they've written, one pass of their eyes across the page, slow and quiet. And then they close the logbook, and they pick up the cup again, and they hold it, and the amber lamp holds its light, and the corridor breathes its amber pulse, and outside all the glass panels, the fungi continue their patient, luminous work. You are very comfortable. The seat beneath you is exactly the right quality of soft, exactly the right temperature. The slight warmth from the metabolic activity in the chambers, the slight cool of the deep sea air, the two finding an equilibrium against your skin that is simply right. Your hands rest where they rest. Your eyes are heavy, not uncomfortably heavy, not the heaviness of effort, but the easy heaviness of things that have been working and are glad now to be still. The amber pulse moves through the corridor. You watch it, the way it swells in the glass panels of the chamber doors, the way it deepens the blue-green glow of everything inside, the way it travels in its slow wave down the entire length of the nursery. 4 seconds of warm gold, building, and then the slow exhale of it, settling back, and the blue-green of the organisms reclaiming the space, and then the amber building again, and again. It is a rhythm you could breathe with. It is a rhythm you are, in fact, breathing with. You notice this without having decided it, the way the body finds the rhythm of water without being asked. Amber builds. You breathe in. Amber settles. You breathe out. In, out, in, out. The depth gauge needle ticks. Once. Muffled, precise, final. Somewhere in chamber 9, the misting nozzle releases its breath of vapor. You hear it, that whisper, that faint sigh, from here, faintly, carried through the corridor air. And with it comes the scent again. Wet stone, green earth, the clean mineral cool of deep water and living things. You breathe it in, and it moves through you, and it settles, and it becomes part of the quiet. The Sporewright has set the cup down, and the logbook beside it on the small shelf. They have leaned back in the low seat, and their hands rest open in their lap, and their eyes are resting somewhere between open and closed, somewhere in the amber lamplight. They are not asleep. They are in that particular state of the Sporewright, the state that is neither work nor sleep, but is perhaps the truest form of both, present, unhurried, aware, at ease, doing nothing except existing in the place they tend, which is itself a form of tending. You understand this. You are in it now too. The corridor is very still. The amber pulse moves through it, steady, slow, reliable. The hum of the pressure seals wraps everything. The blue-green glow of the fungi drifts through the glass panels in soft gradients, touching the walls of the corridor with the faintest suggestion of color. The scent of wet stone and green earth, the very slight warmth of the mycelium mat in chamber 5, reaching through the closed door, through the corridor to where you sit, the tick of the depth gauge, the not quite silence of the deep. Your hands are heavy, not unpleasantly, just settled, just resting where they rest, growing gradually heavier, gradually more relaxed. Each small muscle releasing a tension you hadn't noticed was there until it's gone. Your shoulders, your jaw, the small muscles around your eyes, the amber pulse. In, out. You think, very gently, at the very edge of thought, of the specimen in chamber 12. The old one, the one that has been growing there since before the Sporewright arrived, since before anyone in the nursery can remember, spreading its slow blue light across the circular floor of its chamber, incorporating everything offered to it, registering each drop of condensation as a ripple of brighter glow that spreads and fades, like breathing, like dreaming. You hold that image in the gentle interior of your mind, the blue glow, the spreading mycelium arms, the stillness of it, and it is not complicated. It asks nothing. It offers only its own quiet presence. The oldest kind of company. The misting nozzle breathes, somewhere far down the corridor, a whisper of vapor. The scent arrives a moment later, cool and clean and green. The amber pulse, gold building in the corridor, warm, settling. The canvas apron rustles once, the faintest sound, as the Sporewright shifts slightly in the low seat, settling further, settling deeper, and then is still. The pressure seals hum, low, steady, holding everything in place. You breathe in, you breathe out. The weight of your body is a pleasant, familiar thing. The surface beneath you is soft. The air is cool and carries green. The amber pulse moves through the corridor one more time. You are aware of it through closed eyes, a faint warmth on your face, a gentle brightening and settling. And it is the most ordinary thing in the world. The amber pulse of the grow lights cycling through their 4-second breath, and it has been doing this all along, and it will continue, and you do not need to watch it. You can let it happen without you. You can let it tend the fungi and move through the chambers and complete its cycle without any attention from you at all. You can simply let go. The depth gauge needle ticks. The corridor is very long and very still and very softly lit. The blue-green glow of the organisms filters through the glass panels in gentle gradients. The scent of whetstone and green earth and cool water is in every breath. The Sporewright is quiet beside you, patient, at ease. The amber pulse, building and settling and building and settling. The pressure seals hum, low, very low, continuous. You are here. You are safe. The deep ocean presses against the glass in perfect black silence, and the glass holds, and the nursery holds, and the amber light tends everything inside it. Nothing needs to be done. Nothing will be required of you. The spores drift where they will in chamber 11. The Threadmold advances its slow violet edge along the basalt slab. The old specimen in chamber 12 breathes its blue light into its sealed chamber, steady and continuous and patient as the tide. You breathe in, you breathe out. The logbook is closed. The glass stylus rests beside it. One word on the last page, just one word, written in the Sporewright's small, careful hand. But you don't need to read it. You already know it. It was the word you brought with you when you came here. It is the word the nursery has been saying all along, in its amber pulse, and its bioluminescent glow, and its mineral-scented air, and its continuous low hum. Quiet. Quiet. The amber pulse moves through the corridor one more time, and you let it go. The hum of the pressure seals, very far away now, the faintest thing, just beneath the surface of sound, the cool green air, the blue light, steady, somewhere, still there, the tick of the depth gauge, once, and then nothing but the hum, and the dark, and the warmth of the mycelium pressing through the wall, and the amber building very slowly into gold, and your breath moving in and out, in and out, in and out, without any effort from you at all, while the nursery tends itself, and the old specimen glows in its chamber, and the spores drift in chamber 11, and the Sporewright rests, and the deep ocean holds everything in its cold and patient embrace. And all is well, and all is tended, and all is still.